Oh, tell me when we're all set.
All right, we're recording.
All right, thanks. All right, let me call the June meeting of the Elementary School Building Committee to order. Thank you all for attending. We have members Diane Germain, Denise Gibbons, Rich Nichols, and Wayne Clark, and myself as voting members attending. We have a quorum, and we will proceed. In addition, we have ex officio members Nancy Gustafson. Uh, Terry, are you a? I'm not sure you're an ex officio member. What's your status? Your status is mute, Terry. So.
I said I'm a privileged guest.
All right, there you go. That's the best kind. Kim Borst, our administrative assistant, and who have I missed? Chris Everly from Compass Project Management, and Charlie Hay from TAPE, and we're waiting on Julie Allen. Did I miss anybody?
We may or may not be joined by Chris Fogarty at some point. She had another meeting. If it got over early enough, she was going to try to get to this meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk to her when and if she arrives. All right. Chris, why don't you update us all on the radon testing that was conducted today?
So GZA was on site with 2 technicians, and Randy was there for a while. Randy Muse was there for a while as well. They connected their equipment, and in each of the 2 locations, in C1 and in D-Wing, they were able to get a successful vacuum pressure under the building. They added 3 pilot holes, and my understanding is that they essentially test as a measurement of inches per water column, how much air movement they're able to detect at the pilot holes. So they were able to detect movement at all of the pilot holes, which I'm told is good. There is further work that needs to be done in the office to sort of extrapolate the data and turn it into a working radon solution. But overall, the test was successful and indicated what, by my understanding, are good results, if somewhat technical for my knowledge base. Related to radon, one of the things that I wanted to bring up today is where we are today versus the amount of time we have remaining to implement a solution. As we've talked multiple times, the process for radon is to first complete GZA's work, which will essentially establish a basis of design for a radon solution. The next step would be to engage TAPE with that basis of design, and they would produce documents that would be buildable for the actual solution. So the next step will be to engage TAPE with a amendment to their contract to complete a design of that system. Following that, the goal would be, and this is somewhat aggressive, and we're developing it today based on the results that we got that were positive today. The goal would be that we come back to this committee a month from now with that completed design and a price for that system that the group could approve. That is going to be a large amount of money, depending on the number of individual vents that are required within the building. The best case, I think, would be 4 to 6 vents, based on what I've heard, although that could increase or decrease based on the results of what they're studying now. But I think the action that this committee should be aware of is that we're going to, if we want to complete this system in August, we're going to need to probably vote today to authorize, I would suggest you authorize Wayne to negotiate an amendment to TAPE's contract so that they could move forward with design of a radon system.
Chris? Wayne? Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
So I have a couple comments on that. Number one, I assume TAPE could start looking ahead of time for possibilities of areas where they could run the chases if we decide to bury those pipes. The other option is, and I know it's not necessarily the best aesthetically pleasing way to do it, is why couldn't we run them straight through the building and paint them and not do chases?
Well, Rich, before we get to the fix, and I certainly want to address that question, let's ask Charlie if he's prepared to do this work in the time that we're talking about. I'm not sure what else he's got in mind. We haven't talked about this, so let's get Charlie's input on his ability to perform this function.
So I had a very brief conversation with Chris about 15 minutes before this meeting, and it was the first time it was ever discussed. But what I told Chris was that we would do our level best to get going on it right away. And we can do, in theory, we can do it in advance of even figuring out what the fee is or whatever the contract amendment is. We can get started. The issue more for me is getting the direction of GZA on what the heck we're doing. So right now, I don't even know where these things are located. And we presumably are going to have some fans to spec. We're going to have piping to spec. We're going to have some sort of demolition drawing, some sort of roof details for roof penetrations. I don't think it's going to be a huge drama because we're just giving it to Julie to price. So it's not as if it's going out to bid somewhere. So we're happy to dig right in and do our level best to do it as quickly as we possibly can.
Great. Thanks, Charlie. We appreciate it. As you know, we're under the gun here and we want to get a solution.
Right.
So I'm not sure what other work you've got in my, on tap at the moment. So we appreciate your willingness to jump right in here.
Yeah, we're happy to do that. I'm not 100% familiar yet with what the heck we're doing, but we'll figure that out.
Okay, great. Now let's get to Rich's questions about whether or not we run some exposed stacks through the building, paint them, make them look like part of the normal mechanical equipment in the building, or do something more elaborate. Is that, Rich, why don't you say it again?
Yep. So what they're going to end up doing on this is they're going to core holes in the foundation. They're going to put in a pipe. The pipe is going to go through up to the roof, which I know, Charlie, you know that's how that works. And then there'll be an inline fan that they'll determine how much pressure you'll need on it. And so GZA may be able to tell you that. The question is on that is if we have chases that we can get the pipes through and it works with GZA in the square footage that they figure that they need to depressurize, if you could identify some chases ahead of time, like you said you were willing to do, that might be advantageous. The other option is if there are spots where, we could put it where it looked okay and it worked, within GZA's, depressurization zones, because they'll make like little bubbles is what they'll do on that. We might have some back and forth with them on where they could go. I'm just thinking of cost.
Yeah.
So, my goal is, go ahead, Charlie, sorry.
What I was going to say is it could even end up being some sort of a hybrid. Like if some of the locations we could find a storage room or we could find a back of house space or something like that and run it up through that. But, obviously if they want one smack dab under the lobby or something, we're probably going to want to put that one in a wall. So it sort of feels like it's going to be a circumstantial, but I hear you. The point is not to limit demolition as best we can. And obviously drywall work, painting, taping is all labor intensive. Finish work is going to be expensive. Replacing vinyl base is expensive. Moving ceilings is expensive. If there's another way to do it, it's obviously a better outcome.
And something to keep in mind in terms of how this system works is that it addresses the areas of the building in a uniform way. So we can't most of the building is classrooms, and there's not a lot of individual rooms through large wings of the building. And so if this is an exposed solution, it's most likely to be exposed in a corridor or in a classroom. So if I mean, obviously, if the committee's comfortable with that, that's fine. But the building does not lend itself to lots of tiny spaces
No.
where we can stick stuff.
No, I genuinely have no clue what we're talking about. So it's the other thing we can do is give you options. We could say, here's a red dot that shows one inside wall. Here's a red dot that shows one exposed. What's your preference?
But
Right.
it
Right.
is
Well-
still a process, and we still need a certain amount of information from GZA just to define Charlie's scope.
Right.
And we have been pushing to get that. We've experienced a number of COVID delays related to this that have been disappointing, but that's the situation that we're in at the moment.
All right. So, but Charlie, I think your suggestion to Rich's point is keep in mind the cost, give us some options as you start planning ahead. I think the two sites where they drilled the 6-inch cores, they were able to put those in stud, they hid those within walls, and hopefully we can do that again if that's reasonable. I know one of the issues we had was trying to not disrupt all that nice tile work that we did. Let's see if we can't come up with something. Again, we need to wait and see what GZA is recommending, but I think Rich's point is something that we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think it could be real easy in this to thread things through the project at this point in time is very difficult, Wayne, like you just explained. And since we're coming back at the tail end on this, we may want to think about, yes, maybe aesthetically it's not the best thing, we could have done, but we may just have to deal with it.
Okay. Well, really, I think the point that should not be overlooked is they did get good air movement under the slab. So we are, that tells me functionally we are able to deal with the problem. We are able to draw the radon to a location where we can safely vent it through the, outside the building. So.
Does that mean we have a little more flexibility in terms of the locations of the stacks? Maybe it does.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know the particulars of it. It's way outside my level of expertise, but it certainly sounds like, the results that they got were promising and gave them more flexibility.
Good.
And to answer that, Charlie, yes, that would. Like I said, when they depressurize under the slab, it creates like a bubble. And if we have good air movement, you have more flexibility on where you put the pipes. And we don't necessarily have to have 100% coverage. As long as it's depressurized, the radon won't seep up into the building.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. All right. Anything else?
Limiting the number of risers helps too. I don't know if that's going to be an option, but.
Well, I would think so. And I would think that because it's the only 2-story and the gym and, our grand entrance there are expansive, so if there's a need to put a vent in that area, I think we'll have to be creative. But the others, like the D-wing, that apparently that was a good result, and you just need to get it up through a wall and up into the ceiling. And so, and maybe in the office area, the A-wing, maybe the same, or the cafeteria. So let's see what they come up with. All right. Anything else on radon? All right, let's talk about the next hot topic, which is the tennis courts. Do we have Julie joining us yet?
It does not appear so. Let me see if I can.
I just sent her an email. I don't have my phone here to text her, but.
And who's the administrator of this thing? Is there anybody waiting to be admitted?
I don't think so. I've been checking that periodically, and I haven't Nobody's popped up asking to be let in.
Okay, all right. Well then, the last note I had from Julie is that I forget the name of the company that's been the fence company that's scheduled to do the work now. They've committed to her to be there tomorrow.
So, just for the benefit of everybody, Wayne, we should just let everyone know that since the last meeting, the town executed change order 31 that extends Agostini's contract date to July 10th, per the authorization that this committee gave to the chairman to negotiate that change order at the April meeting. As part of that change order, we asked for some interim deadlines to address remaining scopes of work. And of those remaining scopes of work, we have the fencing at the tennis courts. You're correct, Wayne, that they are planning to do that beginning tomorrow was the last word that I have. And then we asked that they hold off on the tennis nets and posts so that the work area wouldn't be disrupted by people attempting to play tennis on the non-completed courts. The fire lane gates are still outstanding. I don't have an update on a date for those. And other items that are outstanding are the final pavement surfacing for the fire lane itself. There was I think it was a running track and a few other things that they were putting on there, as well as the green screen, which we'll touch on later. I did speak with the owner of PCA, the irrigation company, today. They are close to completing the irrigation. They ran into a problem with dirt in the pipes that disrupted a number of valves. So they have one valve that is stuck open that they are trying to source to replace. And once that's replaced,
is that the lower field? Is that the new box?
The lower field, the new box that was installed. The electrical is installed. The site water lines are operating, as far as I can tell, because they're using them for the lawn maintenance.
Chris, Julie's in, by the way. Julie showed up, I think.
Okay.
Hi, yeah. Sorry guys, I just called in. I can't. My computer wasn't working, so I'm just on the phone right now.
So, Julie, I was just running them down what I know of the current schedule for the work that is still outstanding.
Okay.
So the last update is I saw Paul Adams in the on site before I left this afternoon, and he let me know that he has one more valve to address, and then he'll be complete on the irrigation system for the Spring Street lot. The system is turned on. It's just there's one faulty valve that needs to be addressed.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
So let's go back to the beginning. So Julie, are we going to get our fence installed tomorrow morning?
Yeah, he's gonna have two guys there tomorrow, which isn't enough guys. So we had a conversation, let's put it like that, today, and Thursday he's supposed to hit it with two crews, he said, to really put a dent in it. But yes, he is going to have two guys there kind of putting caps on tomorrow and laying out and getting everything set up and ready. And Thursday says he's hitting it with two crews. So I have stressed the importance of this to him. Unfortunately, I don't hold a whole lot of leverage over him, but I have definitely stressed it to him that we need to get this done as soon as possible. He was asking me today to push this out beyond the 4th of July because I guess he's does a lot of pool installs, fences around pools. So everybody wants their pool ready for 4th of July. So, so it looks like the fence. It looks like the fence around the soccer field is probably going to happen after 4th of July. And he says he promised me today that he's going to hit that with a bunch of guys and get out of there quickly. But I told him I absolutely need the tennis court, by the latest midweek next week.
Julie, I will be there tomorrow to make sure his 2 people are on site.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go Thursday to make sure he has adequate staff as well.
Well, then I will be there Thursday with my 2 grandchildren, and there will be a scene if he's not there.
Okay.
There may be one anyway, Wayne.
Well, that could be. Julie, I understand, Julie, but like I said in my email to you, we're counting on you to get this done. It's been dragging and dragging, and the closer we
Yep.
get to it, the more excuses we get. Unacceptable. He needs to be there tomorrow.
Yep. Just so you know, I totally agree. I'm very, very frustrated by it. Just so you know, today, once he tried to blow me off again, I started just exploring a whole nother option. So I kind of have we'll call it a plan C in my back pocket if he doesn't show up on Thursday.
Don't tell me Mark's Fence Company.
No, but not too far from it.
All right.
What's the name of the company, Julie, that's supposed to be there tomorrow?
It's called Fences by Steve.
Fences by Steve. So, Julie, just as you were coming on, Chris went through the whole list of work yet to be done within the July 10th no-cost change order. Where we stand with completing on time?
I think we're in pretty good shape. Again, I don't have that list in front of me because my computer's not working. But I think the fence is really the only item that I'm worried about on that list that won't be.
You've got some missed metals. You've got your fire lane gates.
Yep.
When are those scheduled to be installed?
Those will probably be the week of the 10th, I would say.
And
looking
the
at
green
when it's shipping.
And the green screen?
The green screen is supposed to be in this week. I asked them for a tracking number. It did ship. So it's supposed to be in this week, and I'm trying to get it on the schedule for the beginning of next week for install.
Okay. Terry, now that we're in phase 2 of the COVID protocol here, do we have any greater, or are we affected at all by getting this work done inside the building or access to the building?
No, I don't think so. I think the only restrictions you would theoretically have is that if you have folks working within 3 feet of each other, they should still be masked. But I mean, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that to Fences by Steve to determine if that's necessary.
Well, I think
Yep.
outside's a little different rules, but
Okay.
inside the
we
building.
continue as part of the construction COVID requirements. We continue to remind workers on site that are working in groups that they need to be wearing masks.
All right. Do we need Corys for the people coming in to do the green screen?
No, there are no kids.
Nancy
No.
has, yeah.
I would say no.
Yeah, right. I would agree.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, Julie. I don't see any reason why we are not full steam ahead.
Julie, I have a
Yep.
question. When can you get
Sure.
them back in to put in the net posts and nets?
He is pretty readily available for that. I just want to make sure that the fence is, as Wayne says, full steam ahead on Thursday. And as soon as I feel comfortable, like, yep, it's going and it's going to be enclosed, then I will call Cape and Island and get them on the schedule. But he said, just give him a day or two notice, and he can send somebody down because it's just like a one man job.
Okay.
Okay.
Wayne, I have a few other things from Chris Fogarty. Did you see the email I sent you?
Yeah,
earlier today. Three things.
go ahead.
She has asked if we could do signs, and she's given us text and a budget of $200 for 2 signs. Julie, do we just have 2 doors into the courts?
Yes, we just have 2 doors. Yes,
Okay,
2
good.
gates. We have 2 gates on each side, and then there's a divider down the middle, and there's 2 gates in that divider as well. But I don't know if you'd need signs there.
No, no. These are, rules for using the courts.
Yep.
The second thing that she's looking for is a storage box to hold the rackets and miscellaneous stuff. She's found it at Home Depot for $173. And she seems to think that John Engler can get it attached to one of the fences. And the third thing she needs are net adjusters for the co-lined pickleball courts, because the pickleball nets are about 2 inches lower than the tennis nets, and you need a special, like a bungee cord thing.
I thought that was included in the scope of work, Julie.
I don't know that. I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, I believe that it is. I believe they are included. It's like a Velcro strap, if I remember correctly.
Correct. They're not a
yeah.
lot of money. They're $36 for 3 of them. So the whole thing she's asking for comes to $409. And I wanted to at least ask if the group would consider it, because she has no budget for this year and not much for next.
I'm fine with that.
Who said that?
Rich.
Thank you.
I am too.
Wayne, how about you?
I am not Denise, or I am not Diane. I have trouble with the fact that the committee is asking the selectmen to reimburse the project for the additional pickleball cost. And I find it inconsistent to consider additional pickleball expense if we're not recognizing the cost of the pickleball in total as being part of the project. So to me, it just seems inconsistent. I know it's inconsistent. It's not a consequential cost, but it seems inconsistent to me.
Is the stuff, Diane, for pickleball specifically?
Yes. Well, the signs for the rules and regulations are for the courts in general.
Okay, they had signs up before, correct?
Correct, but they're not appropriate anymore, and nobody knows where they are.
No, and I'm not saying that. To replace them wouldn't be an issue.
Correct.
And then the storage, would the storage be for the tennis program, or is that pickleball specifically?
Probably both, but I don't know for sure what she wants to put in there. The storage box is about 5 feet wide. Looks like a very large cooler.
It's probably not much different than the one that's over in the garden area.
Who's using that? Chris?
Yep.
Do you know who's using the garden area storage box?
It was damaged in the windstorm, but I don't know that. Terry and Nancy might know more about how the school's using that garden area. I don't know if it's being used programmatically at this time.
Okay.
I don't think we are using it at this time. I think the first time we were going to use it was this spring, and of course, this spring didn't happen.
Right.
But it was intended to support the gardening program, so it was a place to put the related components of that program.
So, Wayne, are you okay with the signs for the hours of usage and?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, that's $200. And the net adjusters, if they are indeed part of the contract, That's fine. If she needs more, she has to go buy them.
So, Terry or Nancy, what involvement do you feel that John Engler or the school has to the operation, maintenance, whatever of these courts?
Well, I think we're still in dialogue about working out the maintenance and trash removal and things like that with DPW and Jim McKay. So I'm not sure how far along we've gotten in terms of some sort of an agreement.
All right. Well, it was my understanding when the decision by the selectmen was for this particular result that this was town land and that the town was to exert its influence over the result. I'm just not sure what that does to the use and maintenance of the courts.
Right. I don't think our contributions will be significant other than perhaps during a tennis season, once we have one, helping with trash removal or something. So I can circle back with John and see where we are on those discussions. But I believe you're right, Wayne. It is town land. The tennis courts and the pickleball courts will be up to the town to maintain, but we do have half the basketball court and trash barrels around the playground, etc. So we were trying to have a collaborative discussion kind of around all of that area as well.
Okay. All right. So Diane, what's the intention for getting the signs made then? You have something from Kristen?
Yes, I have text. I have Chrissy's text, and she normally would have gone to Jim McKay to get the name of a vendor that he has and get the signs made, but he was out today.
So, I'm really wondering whether or not that's the better way to do it. I don't know, Julie.
Yep.
It would seem my understanding is your process is a lot more complicated, or not?
Yeah. Usually, yes. I mean, it depends on the type of sign. I do have, other than outside of the sign guy I used on this whole project, we do have somebody that does, like, basically temp signs for us, but they do aluminum signs as well, which I could probably order and get quickly if you wanted to put that in my court.
So Diane, what's your pleasure?
I think it's just as easy to have McKay do it.
So then,
if he's willing,
so then let's just ask Chris Fogarty to submit the invoices.
Yep.
All right. So the signs in the storage box, she'll just submit invoices, and this committee will agree to pay for them.
That's $373.
All right.
Do we need a motion, or not until the bill comes?
Or you should authorize the expense.
I agree.
Diane, I thought you said the signs were 200, no?
Yes,
With 200 in total, Diane, correct?
correct.
So
Two signs.
100 each.
Correct.
And what was the box?
It was the
No, the cost.
173.
All right, I make a motion that we authorize the expenditure of $373 for signs and a box for the tennis court.
Second.
Rich, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Rich, my suggestion is give them a little more room. Let's maybe a not to exceed so that if there's,
400.
Okay, taxes, yeah, fine, let's do it for, 400, that makes sense, Wayne, thank you. I make the motion for $400 for signs and box.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. We'll do this by roll call. Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Wayne Klockow votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right.
Great.
Let her know, and we'll deal with it at our next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other construction issues that we need to be aware of?
Wayne, could you walk through the green screen with me, for me, please?
The green screen was opaque, and because it was in the middle of the room, could not be used because it didn't. It couldn't act as intended because it wasn't up against a wall.
Who spec'd it?
I would guess that's Charlie.
Tap A spec'd it.
Okay, so I'm just asking the question, why didn't it work?
Seems like it was a mistake on our part. So this is I'm not completely familiar with the issue, I must admit. However, it's a product we've used in multiple schools, so our spec writer was accustomed to speccing it. We treated it as a normal green screen situation, despite the fact that during programming it was decided to hang it in the middle of the room, which we've never done before. They've always been against a wall. We had no idea that it was going to be slightly transparent and that would be an issue. I mean, I haven't honestly seen it in action, so I don't know. So that was mistake number one, which was a miss. And then mistake apparently number two was its length. And I guess that during the submittal process, the submittal had it being short, and we didn't pick that up particularly, which we should have. And therefore, it ended up being too short for the use that was intended for. And again, I think we've done green screens that haven't reached the floor, but because it's in the middle of the room, it's a problem. So that just made the problem worse. So I don't know that. Again, I'm not really the expert on it, on the issues, but I think that we just made a mistake.
Okie dokie.
What is the change order? Do we have that change order?
So that change order,
12,000 something.
we did release the screen to be made as part of the discussions. I apologize for not having this on the May meeting. It was an oversight on my part. But the price came in at $12,377, which includes the screen itself, as well as a surround and enclosure for that screen. That because the ultimate solution was a dual screen that would have a opaque screen behind the green screen so that we could continue to keep it in the same location. We did, over the course of time that this has been an issue, and we've been reporting it in the minutes, look at multiple locations throughout the school that would work with the existing screen. We are going to turn over the existing screen to the school so that they have the ability to use it if they can find an alternate location or use. But the new screen will work in the location that works best for the STEAM program and will solve the issues that Charlie raised of the transparency as well as having it reach the floor. Because it is a custom screen, it doesn't come with an existing enclosure. So we have a number here to create a wood trim enclosure around the custom screen that will be for lack of a better word, design built once it arrives in the field and we have an understanding of what it is.
Well, right, and I think we're on record as questioning that number. I mean, this is theoretically 3 pieces of MDF painted. I mean, I don't see how you could possibly spend $2,500 building the enclosure.
Yeah,
Do I
I
understand how
I
you
had the
can
same
spend
reaction, Charlie.
$850, and I don't understand how we can spend $850 painting it.
Yeah, so $850 is the day rate for the painter.
Well, this is about
And
a 45-minute paint job.
we can take it off if somebody from the school wants to paint it. We have King Painting completely closed out on this project right now. So to get them back, you know, have to travel here. He charged me for the whole day, unfortunately. And then as far as the, you know, $2,500 for the wood enclosure, I just don't know. There's an unknown factor. You know, somebody needs to make a trip down there, figure out what needs to happen, take a material list, go to the store, get the materials, get a carpenter back. It could be several days of maybe not actual physical work, but of somebody's work.
Well,
Trying to figure out what needs to happen.
maybe everyone should see this thing in place, and maybe the school could do it with just staff. I mean, honestly, unless I'm misunderstanding this is an incredibly simple thing to do. I mean, it doesn't
I
take.
don't know how comfortable I am about the school taking it on. We have quite a lot of things on the plate, and to add one more thing,
That is true.
I have some concern about that.
All right. Well,
I mean, it can certainly be separated so that we have the mounting and powering of the screen, and then take a look at what it looks like and generate a more concise solution for the surround. I know that at one point we talked about whether the housing could be painted. I do understand Julie's point that, you know, we've closed out that trade contractor, and to ask them to come out for a small job, you know, at this stage of the job, it's not uncommon to have them want a full day's work to come back to a site.
So what if we did this, Chris? What if we did a not to exceed for this amount and asked Julie to look at this in the field, and we can make some decisions as Charlie was suggesting as to what was needed, and rather than take the worst case and accept that at this point, give ourselves some flexibility to see if we can do it in a more cost-effective way.
I think that's a reasonable way to approach this. I think I communicated that to Julie.
Julie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right. We have not voted on this before, have we?
We have not.
Rich, what's your thought?
Well, we got to do it, so let's just go ahead and, I think the not to exceed, and, you know, like Julie said, by the time all said and done, she's probably going to be pretty close to, you know, that number by the time you get done fooling around with it. And the day rate makes 100% sense. I have the same problem with me. They want a day's pay. So I say we go ahead and make the wood projector as a not to exceed and vote on it and go from there.
All right, I would entertain that motion.
I make a motion that we approve, let's see, change order 152 to modify green screen projection in steam room for the amount of $12,377. $2,500, that is a not to exceed for the wood in projector enclosure.
Second.
Second and third.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I would just like to make the point that I know it doesn't appear in the discussion, but we should note in the minutes or in the motion to approve that the screen should reach the floor. Nowhere in the actual change order did that end up getting stated.
All right, that's a good point.
Chris, I think I changed the description so that it did note that now.
No, I couldn't. I read through it and I couldn't find it. Everything else we talked about ended up in there, but I didn't see anything that says it goes to the floor.
Well, let's make
Wait, function will reach floor as well as have it. Okay. It says will reach
Yep.
floor. I rescind my comment.
All right. We have a motion pending. Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain, how do you vote?
Aye.
Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Klacko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right.
So, Wayne, if I could, I sent out the PCO log to all of you. We did take, through some discussion between Julie and myself, we took some of the older ones off of here that did not become cost issues. So we zeroed those out, removed them from the list. We're still working on trying to get an answer on some of these. But we're continuing to track them, and hopefully we have resolution to a number of these by the July ESBC meeting.
When will we close all of these?
Most likely when the project's complete. Optimistically, I'll say August, but we'll have closeout and punch list, and you never know when something might pop up. Certainly not from the users right now with the COVID situation, but
I think Rich's question is, of all of these that other than the ones that we've accepted, when do they go from pending to resolved?
Once we close out the contractor responsible. So, the signage at the basketball and tennis courts we had put there as a placeholder. Sounds like the town's going to take that on directly. So we'll pull that off the list this month. We're having an ongoing discussion about 174 and 175. And I think that discussion is going to continue. I spoke with Julie earlier in the week about 151, and she's trying to get some certainty to whether or not there's a cost associated with that. That was a CCD that was issued. And 154, we won't know until the soccer field fence is complete and the fencing sub is closed out.
What is 154?
So 154 is the modifications to the soccer field fence on the west side of the site.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's where we deleted some fencing and reworked some fencing. It resulted in a reduction of about 30% of the fence in that area.
Okay.
All right. So there are no other pending change orders then tonight, Chris?
Not tonight. The only one that we were asking for approval on was the green screen.
All right. So can we move ahead to the 3-week look? How did we get to a 3-week look ahead? Is that something you did, Diane?
No.
I added it 3 week because 3 week takes us to July 10th, which is when the project will reach substantial completion. Correct, Julie?
Correct.
Wow.
Thinking ahead, Wayne.
All right. So when do you think we will have the tennis/pickleball courts available for playing?
I think probably the first. I want to tell you the first week of July, and I'm nervous to guarantee anything because the fencing contractor has been so unreliable, as they all seem to be. So that's why if he does what he says he's going to do, which he's lied to me in the past, then the first week of July, you should be okay. But I just need to confirm that on Thursday he brings the manpower he says he's going to bring.
And I would ask that a different way, and that's, when, Julie, do you think you'll be substantially complete and ready for Warner Larson to come punch list everything? I know we've had this back and forth, but I think it's in the town's best interest to have the tennis court reviewed by the design team to be sure that it's complete before it's excessively used by the public.
Okay. Well, then I would also respond to the first week of July for that. I mean, if things seem to be moving a little quicker, I could give a heads up and get Warner Larson out there. But yeah, I would say the first week of July.
Chris, what do they have outstanding to review, Warner Larson? And the other question is, since we paid them quite a bit, I would assume they could make more than one trip.
And that's a question for you, Charlie.
Can they punch out what they have to date and then come back for the tennis court?
Well, no, they've already done that. No work's happened since the last report they did, which wasn't very long ago. And what they've said is that they plan to come out twice, once in the summer and once in the fall, to accept the plantings. But the plantings are nowhere close to being acceptable. I mean, the grass isn't growing. We don't know how the trees are doing. The plugs were only put into the bioretention basins recently. So their current game plan, which we provided because it was requested, is to come out twice, once during the summer and once in the fall, to accept the plantings. So that's more than once. I mean,
All right, so can we make that summer session first week of July, Charlie? Recognizing the community interest in getting to use these courts.
uh-huh.
All right, great.
I will tell you, Wayne, that I did talk with John McVeigh, and we are within the acceptable timeframes to start using them, assuming social distancing. So the Board of Health is fine with opening the courts.
And at that point, all the landscape work is complete, right? Except for the fact that the plantings aren't ready.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, when all the plantings are in right now, they're just, I'm sure they want to give it a little time to see how they take.
Yeah, those
Sure,
dead
right?
ones don't seem to be getting very green.
Okay.
What was that?
I said the trees without any leaves don't seem to be growing very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they identify some now, I don't want to waste their time, but if they identify some that are just dead now, we can get them on the list now to be replaced in the fall too, so that we know on their next visit.
All right. Well, let's do one thing at a time. Let's get Warner Larson to teed up to look at the tennis pickleball courts the first week of July.
Okay, we're just going to need notice that it really is done.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll touch base with you either end of the day Thursday or Friday, just to confirm that things are looking like they should be looking.
Okay.
Julie, you're going to get to meet my grandchildren.
I'm very excited about that.
Keep in mind, Wayne, we do have our 10 o'clock meeting this week.
Understood. Understood. All right. Do we have anything else to consider before we start paying some bills?
I actually have a number of construction administration's items that I wanted to touch on. Do we want to discuss the lawnmower today? I know John was unable to join us.
Terry,
Yes,
are you prepared to talk about the lawnmower?
I am to a degree, but we can also, leave it to the pleasure of the committee if you want to put it off a month. I mean, I think that's up to you, but I am prepared to talk about it.
Well, let's talk about it now. I guess my first question is, how do we go from $2,000 to $4,000 for a lawnmower? That's
Well, that's a question I wish I did know what the answer to. I can tell you I did and go out and look the specifications for the particular mower. This is a quote, obviously, from Norfolk, which is the same company we dealt with for the rider. And this is, I believe, the idea of this particular mower is it's specifically designed for hill work. And that's the whole idea of this mower. The previous mower that I think was quoted to him, and it was quoted to him on the phone, they did not really understand the purpose of what that mower was for. And so this is my understanding as part of this is that well, a lot of mowers are gear driven, but this is particularly situated so that it's got a variety of safety measures so that it can't come back on the person who's walking behind it. It'll self-brake, so to speak. So that's one of the safety measures, among others, that are involved with it. Obviously, it's a wider deck. It's a brand that we've used. In fact, it's a brand of rider that we bought. So it's a brand that is one that we have high confidence in. Beyond that, I guess I would yield to other questions.
what's the rest of the committee feel about it?
Last time John talked about $1,300.
Right.
Where does 2 to 4,000 come in? And is it 2 or is it 4?
I think, to be blunt, they quoted him the wrong mower before.
Yeah.
They were quoting him a mower that $1,300 mower
This was
was
the
a
estimate.
walk-behind mower that you would use on flat terrain.
Jeez.
Okay. It
Okay,
was
so
not something that was designed for hill work and particularly for safe hill work.
Yeah, Diane, that's like a commercial, it's like a button. So that's what a regular, like a lawn mowing company would use. That's about what you pay for it. So I'm not surprised.
How about 2 goats? Joking.
And then I think the other thing, which would have been in addition to either one of the quotes, is I don't think they quoted him a bagger on either mower.
But this one has a bagger for 200.
This one has a bagger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you pay for a 36-inch mower. So that's not the problem.
We wouldn't be talking about it if it was just the bagger. Right?
No, I know you wouldn't, but I figured I'd mention it. No, this is a commercial mower, and again, it's a part of the drive system is for this particular type of mower is designed so that it can not only handle hills, so that it's not going to break down in a year, but it's also designed to protect the person who's walking behind it. So it's a safety measure as well.
So I have no experience with this. Rich, it sounds like you do.
Yeah, I mean, I have one that's similar to that in my shed, broken. But that's what you'd spend for a mower like that.
Okay. Well, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we approve the amount of $4,044 for a 36-inch Kawasaki lawnmower.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Rich, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Denise, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Terry,
you.
you got yourself a new mower.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Chris, what else do you have?
So just I don't know if we want to go into it now, but we did respond to a public records request. And Rich, did you want to go into that at all? You had asked me some questions beforehand.
So I just want to know, if there's a cost to the town, and if there is, I'd have town council look at it. We have town council under retainer, so I would be hesitant to spend any money unless, we're forced to.
So, Rich, I'm not sure I can do this while we're talking here. But
Do we need to do, if it's, we could talk offline if need be, if it'll be illegal.
hold on, let me see if I can pull this up, because I wrote a cover letter, and
So,
hold on,
Wayne, if I could.
go ahead.
So what this amounts to is, at this point for the town, is essentially a public records request. And so under the public records law, this is a state-funded project. Project documents are public records, and up to a reasonable point, they're to be provided to the public when requested. This was a particularly extensive public records request that referenced a potential lawsuit that doesn't involve the town. And what my understanding of the public records for law and what it allows is that when and I might have my wording slightly off here, but when a public records request is quite arduous and requires an extensive amount of work in order to produce the records, it is reasonable for the town to pass on its costs to fulfill that public records request. And so the response that Compass provided to Wayne included the costs for Compass and also Agostini to produce the documents that were requested.
Okay, and what I would say, Chris, is did anyone check with town council? So we should check with town council to say, hey, listen, this is going to cost a bunch of money. Are we required to do it? We have them under retainer. We can ask them whatever we want.
So, well, I see it a little bit differently, Rich, because it's not going to cost the town any money. The point here is that the person who's requesting it must pay the cost for this.
Okay, all right, then that's right.
And so, and that was the cover letter that I sent to the attorney, advising him that Compass, and I'm not sure if Agostini did provide some information that was readily available, and we sent it along with my cover note. But then I also sent the email that I outlined the cost that was projected for the remainder of this of the request, and asked him if he was prepared to pay for it. And I received a response from him today, and I'll read it to you. It's not very long. It says, Mr. Klockow, I imagine that part of your original contract price between the awarding authority and its project manager would include a duty of the project manager to produce documents owned by the awarding authority, especially those that are public documents, even though held for the awarding authority, but retained by the project manager. Regardless, general law, chapter 66, prohibits the awarding authority from charging more than the statutory limit, and that amount recited by the project manager well exceeds the limit. Also, odd is that a project manager would charge its customer so much money for documents owned by its customer, the awarding authority, especially if the obligation to keep them secure for the awarding authority is owed under the original contract price. Please let us know if a reasonable amount of more time to produce some documents. Unfortunately, my client must refuse to pay that price quoted by your project manager. So I read this as, first of all, he's making assumptions that are not valid. He's refusing to pay. I think there's nothing additional for us to do at this point.
Well, my suggestion is, and I'm sure you're already thinking this, Wayne, is that you should send that to Jay. And I would send that to Jay and say, hey, listen, this is the response that we have, just so that we've covered ourselves.
I will do that.
Yeah, I would suggest send it to us as well as town council, like Rich is saying. I think that's, it's just in the town's best interest to make sure that we're all in compliance with whatever requirements there are.
We may ask Jay to reply to him also, just because it's sometimes when a lawyer sends a lawyer back to a lawyer, all of a sudden things quiet down.
Has the work all been completed?
They had asked for very specific like they wanted all daily project reports for the entire duration of the project. They wanted like normally when we see these requests, it's related to like a prevailing wage requirement, or it's a subcontractor who was beat out by someone else and wants to see if they can find something they can use as a leg up on them the next time, you know, things along those lines. And this was very specific and very detailed and very extensive. I think it requested all communication that Agostini had with
Okay,
the
okay,
trade
okay.
subcontractor.
Has it all been done, Chris?
No,
No,
no.
we haven't. We
Good.
haven't generated the information.
That's all I wanted to know.
So I would agree with Rich. You should, you know, pass his response on to town council and make sure that we're in compliance. I know that within the town, I think if it's a town clerk, I think there's a statutory $25 cost, but in this case, you're dealing with subconsultants. And I believe that changes the dynamic, but I'm not 100% sure on that, which is why you should ask town council to make sure that they get a read on it.
I would agree you should refer it to town council. I would say that just looking, because I'm looking at Secretary Galvin's memo or booklet on the public records requests right now. I would say the response that Wayne read, I think, has some discrepancies in it, I guess I'll say. So I think it would be worthwhile to have town council look at it and perhaps give advice, because among other things, I don't know that there's necessarily a cap in total as far as the expenses you can charge. There are caps on certain rates. So for example, there's a cap on the rate you can charge for copies. You can charge 5 cents per copy. There's not a cap on the number of copies, for example, that you can charge that rate for. So, I mean, I think that having town council take a look at it is a wise idea.
It's on its way.
If you could just pass that on to us as well, Wayne.
I did. All right.
Any other bills or not?
I just had one other item that I wanted to update the committee on. I can just find it in my notes here. We did receive an update from the MSBA on their most recent change order review, and they identified a number of change orders, the most significant being the booster pump, which they would participate in the cost sharing of. They also participated in the credit sharing for the demo credit, so that offsets some of that, but that's a standard practice of the MSBA as part of your agreement with them. They participated in the vinyl door numbers, the volleyball equipment, the storm drain caps, which is a relatively small amount, and also the floor strikes, the cost sharing for the floor strikes, in addition to a number of others. So particularly the booster pump, I just wanted to update you on that.
Is there an amount of money?
It's heavily offset by the
credit.
The credit, because the cost sharing on the credit was $188,000. So that offsets a lot of what were mostly smaller items, but you know, you do get the booster pump, so that's certainly a good significant number to get cost sharing on.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I had for construction administration, Wayne.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Anything else anybody'd like to bring up? All right. Then Kim?
Yes.
We have some bills
We
to
have some
pay?
invoices. We do. We have an invoice for Agostini, and let me see if I can, whoops.
Oh, while you're pulling that up, Julie?
Yeah.
Anything further from Stanley Roofing?
Oh, good point.
As far as a document,
No, did they do any of the work that we identified when we did our walkthrough?
so I have a message from him on my phone right now. He had called me at the end of the day today, and I think he was trying to schedule that work. So I will let you know on that one. But I
Great.
think he was trying to agree on a time.
Good. If you can let us know on our call on Thursday, that'd be great.
Yep. Okay. No problem.
All right.
So can you see it or no?
Yep.
Okay. So for Agostini, we have their application number 30 for $139,787.45.
This has been reviewed and approved by both Charlie and Chris.
Correct, and it includes, I'll find it here. It includes within it retainage release for Pappas, which was the gym equipment subcontractor. It was not their full retainage, but it was, I think, 75% or slightly more of their retainage. I'm just trying to see if I can find it in my notes. There was also a request from Griffin for retainage. Here it is. Pappas requested $8,425.99. We provided all but $2,000 of that, so $6,425.99. Griffin Electric requested the balance of their retainage, and we denied that because they haven't fully completed their work.
Okay.
That's mostly closeout documents, just for the record.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the invoice from Agostini for $139,787.45.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain, how do you vote?
Aye.
Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Klockow votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we have an invoice for TAP A.
Can I just go back for 1 second? Just on Griffin, Terry or Nancy, do the sports lights work for the tennis and pickleball courts?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I can check with John and get back to you.
The
Chris?
only thing that might not currently be, we had turned them off for safety as part of the conduit repair a few weeks ago, and if you happen to be driving and you see them off, it's possible that they may not have been turned back on because the Griffin folks may not necessarily have had access to the building.
All right, but they
That's
were
good.
functional previously.
They were functional previously, and they
That's
have
fine.
since been corrected.
All right, good, thank you. All right. My apologies. Kim, go ahead.
Okay, so we have an invoice for the month of May from TAP A for $26,289.79.
I make a motion that we approve the invoice for $26,289.79 for Tape Architects for the previous month.
Second.
All right, so Charlie, I have a question about this. Does the work that Jen is doing regarding chips fall within this category?
I mean, any of the closeout work we're doing is in our fee, and all we're doing is billing down our fee on a monthly basis.
All right, well, we have, let's see, with 126 and 128. We still have another $30,000. So we probably have another month and a half of work.
Yeah,
at
we
this rate.
talked about this, and you asked about whether we would just stop work or something, and I said no, of course not. We'll continue to service the job as long as the job needs servicing. If it would make you feel better, we can just stop billing at some point and hold one final invoice. That's not a problem.
No, I'm fine with this. I'm just wondering whether or not the effort will coincide, or do you think that?
Well, you know what? The efforts tend to the effort tends to coincide with the overall phases of work. In other words, when we're in construction documents, we have a huge burn rate, and when we're in bidding, we build much less because we have a lot less hours, and et cetera, et cetera. Month to month is not that accurately calibrated. I mean, we don't know what comes up each month that may or may not take more or less effort. So honestly, I can't tell you that this is not calibrated to precisely what's going on with closing out ships or anything like that. Although I will say, I don't think we have a whole lot left to do, according to Jen, on that front. But again, I'm happy to stretch this out further and bill less each month. That wouldn't be a problem if you'd prefer it. It really doesn't matter to us. I mean, I think the end of the day, we'll bill to 100%, I'm sure, this year. But if you'd like us to just stretch it into the fall, we can. You just get smaller bills each month.
Why don't we revisit this next month? Are you okay with that?
I missed that. I think my internet may be slightly messed up.
I said, why don't we revisit this issue next month?
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Klockow votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so our last one is Compass, also for the month of May. Their invoice is for $15,055.50.
All right. So I make a motion that we approve, oops, I'm moving. Who's moving it? I can't read it. I make a motion that.
Up on the top, Rich.
No, I know, I see it now. We approve the amount of $15,055.50 for Compass Management.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Rich, how do you vote?
Aye.
Denise, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Klockow votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and that's it
Yay.
for invoices. Yay. But we do have some minutes from May 19th.
All right.
I have to abstain because I wasn't at that meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 18th meeting. Is that right, Kim?
It was 19th.
May 19th meeting as submitted.
Second.
So moved and seconded.
Mr. Chair, I wasn't there either, but I think if I remember correctly, as long as we review the minutes, we're able to vote them, even if we weren't in attendance at the meeting.
That is
That's-
correct.
Yep.
So, Rich, how do you vote?
I read them. I thought they were fabulous. I approved them.
As they always are, Kim does a wonderful
Much
job
appreciated.
every time. Yes, she does. Thank you, Kim. Denise, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I certainly vote
Aye.
enthusiastically aye. Motion carries.
All right.
unanimously. Thank you. All right. I think we just need to schedule a meeting for July. Let's go back to Julie. You have a pencil rec for next month, Julie, or for this month?
Yep, I will.
You always find something to submit to us, Julie.
I do.
No.
Always something.
We have planning board on the 14th.
I'm sorry, say that again, Rich?
Planning board is the 14th.
What about the following the 21st?
Hold on, I think that's fine. That's fine.
All right. Do you have a planning board?
Yes, he does.
Yes, we do.
All right. How about the 21st?
Good
Yeah,
for me.
All right.
Looks me.
Great. Let's do it on the 21st. And finally, I'd just like to congratulate Denise on a hard-fought campaign and her victory. You did a great job,
Oh,
Denise.
Thanks very much. My
Congratulations
competition with
on
blank, we did okay against blank.
another 3 years of pain, right?
Yes, of joyous fun. Yes. No,
You and Carrie both?
I'm grateful. Carrie and I both. Yeah, 2 people running for 2 seats. So.
There you go. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Any other business that the committee needs to consider tonight?
Nope.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Let's adjourn.
All right,
I
good night,
move we
everyone.
adjourn.
Good night. Thank you.
Nice.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.